Hello, Math 10 student. I wish everyone are safe and enjoy learning online. In this unit, chapter 5, I will talking about the factor. We have 4 lessons for this unit. The first one is general common factor, which is required you have a little bit knowledge of rate the common factor in elementary you learn, and the memorization of multiplication table. You also can use a calculator to break the number down. However, if you don't remember the multiplication table, you will have to do a lot of trial errors and take a lot of time more than, and you will find this topic is more challenging. I will go very slow for you for this topic, and that's the reason I make my own video to help you to go along with the lesson, as the lesson will get into deeper level, which is including the algebra expression, and the second one will be the factor of grouping factor, and the third will be the factor of differences square, and the last lesson will be factor of trinomials. So I'm going to get into the this video, I'm going to get into the rate the common factor, the general common factor lesson. So please watch the board. So I'm going to go from a very simple concept. So I just put here two numbers, number 8 and 16. How do I find the rate the common factor for this number? You can break it down, and there's many products, right? You can make it become 2 times 2 times 2, or 4 times 2, or 8 times 1. Now, I will choose the product of bigger number, which is 8 times 1. And this one, again, I can break it down in 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 4 times, but that will be tedious task. So I'm going to break it down into number only again, which is 2 times 8. So by doing this, I don't have to break it into too many numbers. So I look at the rated common factor for these two numbers. The rated common factor, and short form is GCF, rated common factor. Common mean the same. So the number 8, you can break it down, become 8 times 1. Each member we call a factor. A factor of 8, a factor of 1, factor of 2, factor of 8. So what is the common factor? It means the same number appear in both two numbers. So the only number the same in here, you can see number 8. And that is the rated common factor. So for these two numbers, 8 and 16, the rated common factor is number 8. So this is the example 1. I'm going to go to the next example. Let's say this time you have a number 5 and 15. Again, I'm going to break it. This is the only one choice, which is 1 times 5. And this one, you can have a 15 times 1, which is the biggest one. You don't want to do that. You're going to do the second one, which is 3 times 5. Again, if you look at number 1, number 5, number 3, number 5, the only number appear in both of them is number 5. So number 5 in this case is, we call it rated common factor. Rated common factor is number 5. Why do we do like this stuff? Because if you look at the next example, let's say if you have, I'm going to talking about the same example again for you. So I'm going to put here 8 and 16. Again, I'm going to put here 1 times 8, and I'm going to put in bracket instead. I'm going to put here 2 times 8. I'm going to put them in bracket. And this you call a factor, product of factor, product of factor. So what is factor? What does it mean? Factor means you break down the number into 2 brackets or more than 2 brackets, several brackets, right? It depends on the number. As long as when you put them in the bracket, you multiply them back 1 times a, you get back into the same number. So that's how you do factor. Here as well, you break the 16 into 2 brackets. As long as when you tie them, you distribute them, you get back into 16. And it's true, 2 times a is 16. So that's how you factor. Now you will say, why? It's so easy. But actually, this is getting into more and more difficult level. So let's say instead of find out the rate common factor of the number, I'm going to ask you to find out the factor for the algebra expression. And the first lesson, I don't want to put in the letter to make it more complicated. So I'm going to say the same using the same example. But now I want to factor the term a plus 16. So I'm going to factor the whole thing here. I'm not just factor number a and 16 separately like that, but I want to factor this expression, a plus 16. And obviously, because you have plus sign between them, so this is no longer a product, it's the addition, a plus 16. And I want to factor this expression to term a plus 16. It's separated by an operation of adding, so this is 2 terms. Now, how do I factor these 2 terms? Again, the idea is exactly the same. I'm going to break this expression into 2 brackets in such a way that when I multiply them, I should get back to the same number. If I multiply these 2 brackets, I should get back into the same expression. So how do I do that? This is what I'm doing. I'm going to pull out the rated common factor for both of these numbers, which is we know is number 8. So I'm going to put the number 8 in the first bracket. I pull out the rated common factor and I put in the first bracket. What number I supposed to put in the second bracket to make it in the way that when I distribute, I get back the same? So the first number, of course, number 1, because 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 1 is 8. So the leftover will be number 1 jump in here. So when I tie back 8 times 1, I get back to exactly number 8. Now this is the plus sign. I'm going to put down the plus sign from here down to here, plus. And then what number I put in here in such a way that when I multiply, I distribute with the same number 8 here, I get back to 16. So of course, 2 times 8 is 16, so the number here have to be 2. So now, when I distribute these 2 brackets, I distribute the first term, and this is, I say check, okay? For checking only. This is what you done. You break them into, and this process we call a factor, okay? Now, I'm going to check it to see if I factor dry or not. Do I get back to the same expression? So check, 8 times 1 equals 8. Distribute the next term, and don't forget to put the sign. This is plus times plus is plus. 8 times 2 is 16. And of course, you look it back. This expression exactly like this one. It means you get back to the same expression. And that's how it works. Now, I'm going to use these 2 guys and show you again. So now I'm going to show you the second example. So that, let's say 5, and I create the term. This time I'm going to say 5 minus 15. So instead of using the plus sign, I'm using negative sign. It doesn't matter. So that's the expression. And I want to factor this expression into 2 brackets. The first bracket is for general greatest common factor of this number. And the greatest common factor of this number is 5. So I'm going to put in here 5. Now, what number I put in here, when I time this, I should get back to the same 5. Of course, it's 1, right? So 5 times 1 is 5. Now, I'm going to put down the negative side, negative. And because this is negative, so I put down negative. And what number I put in here to time with 5 get 50, and of course number 3, right? 3 times 5 is 15. So this is how the factor works. So now I'm going to check, okay? So 5 times 1 equals 5. 5 times minus 3 is minus 15. Now looking it back, so I have 2 arrows distribute, right? So 5 minus 15, 5 minus 15, this is exactly the same. So this part is, we call a factor, these two brackets. And so these two brackets is a factor of this expression. And check, so this is just for checking. As long as you get into a lesson and you factor more naturally and faster, and you know that what you're doing is correctly, you don't have to check. And not any time you have to check. Okay, so this is, I'm talking about the number only. I'm going to create another video for you, which I toss in the letter, so that you can learn from symbol to complex and go step 1, step 2, step 3 to help you better than you watch the video from YouTube. You can see that it's more complex than what I'm doing here. Also, the Study Forge website also have this lesson, but it's very complicated as well. I am suggesting you that after you watching my video, you go back and watch the video from YouTube and go back and watch the video from Study Forge as well. You will find if I produce this video for you, you will understand better, and you understand the video from the Study Forge website better. Even though I have a slightly way of doing it, but at least you get the concept done. So I'm going to create the next video, which I toss in the letter for you. Let me end this video in here. I don't want to give you overwhelmed information, so I separate the video to a small video for you to watch.